Hi.
I met you before, but you forgot at Hawkwood's, and we had to sit in this like circle listening to somebody telling a story, and I hate storytelling. I don't hate it. I like adult storytelling, but anyway.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to talk to you about civil disobedience. Instead, I was like keeping quiet and pretending to be interested in this story.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. And what are you going to do? Like cut them off, you know?
I know. Can you shut up? It's really boring and obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like live in this hippie community, and they're all into stuff like that. And I'm sort of got a foot in the camp and a foot not totally in it, you know.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. The flu's been going around, but I had a very mild case, and I'm doing well. How are you?
Do you know, it's good. I'm really subject to my moon cycle, you know, I'm just coming out of like my period, and I have this like dip where I'm like angry as fuck for half a day, and that was this morning, and I read your thing that you'd written that related to XR. I wouldn't say it was about XR specifically, and I was like,
the essay.
And I was like, fucking hell, I'm gonna be like biting his head off later.
Yeah.
now I've just been on about like sex and peace and love and humility, and I'm just in a totally different, I'm just like a bag of hormones, really. It's not so it's all cool. I can ask you some other thing, I'll talk about some of it.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad we're through the bite his head off part. Yeah, I'm glad.
Have you ever had women in your life like that, perchance?
I just feel a little sensitive about it because the issue is so contentious and highly polarized, and when people believe that the fate of the very planet is at stake, then if you say something that doesn't fit the narrative, then you're not only like whatever stupid or intellectually sloppy or irresponsible, you're like endangering the entire human race, you know. So I get sometimes people get really angry.
Right. Oh no, it wasn't. Yeah. It wouldn't have been the things that you would have thought that I was irritated by. Are we recording? Are we doing this now, Martin? Are we just on?
I think we have already started.
All right. Should we just go for it? I mean, I'm sure you get this all the time, Charles, but it's like people critique things that you're doing. You think that's not what I would meant, or that's not what's happening. So it's more that kind of sense of assumptions or misinterpretations rather than I think a lot of what you wrote, I've read the book, you know. I've read all your books, I said on the email, right? I mean, they mean a lot to me. And I was saying earlier to Martin that the principle and value number 8, no blaming and shaming, was deeply influenced by the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, for example. So, you know, I'm really with you on the sort of, I mean, for example, we're not about the climate, we're about the climate and ecological crisis. That's how we name it. And of course, it gets, depending on who's speaking and also depending on what the media do, it becomes climate, carbon. I think the most interesting thing, to cut to the chase though for me, is what it means to try and build a social movement, you know, what that means practically.
Maybe one step back. Maybe first, Charles, you want to tell about, you have written a very interesting essay where you were talking about extinction and the revolution of love. And maybe you want to first share about what you were saying and briefly, or what is it about, and then maybe starting with this, what you were talking about in Berlin. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a monstrosity of an essay, like 10,000 words. I can't imagine anyone actually reading the whole thing, but I'm very, very flattered, Gail, that you have read the whole thing.
Of course I have.
but yeah, it came from a little speech I gave at Extinction Rebellion in Berlin, where, and I went into that also like a little bit nervous that they're going to bite my head off too, because my impression was that it's very militant and very, very evangelical, almost, just very, very zealous. And so I went in there and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. And I spoke about what I wrote in the essay a bit, that this isn't actually about climate change or global warming, because it's not like if our current system were sustainable after all, that we'd think, great, business as usual, let's keep burning the fuel, let's keep society going as we know it. But in fact, that wouldn't solve the problem at all, because the problem is that we are living in a civilization that doesn't meet deep human needs, that is exploiting and destroying and ruining all that is beautiful, that this and in which we do not fit, that in fact nobody truly fits into this society. That's the root of the protest, and that disconnect between the way things are systemically and who we really are and who we want to become and the world that we know is possible, that disconnect is intolerable. And it's going to bring us out into the streets. It's going to bring us into protest, whether or not the global warming narrative as it stands is correct. And I just wanted to recognize that, so that it's not like, oh, because what happens if global temperatures level off or start declining? Like, what happens if that happens? What happens if the scientific dissidents are correct? I don't think that they are, but they could be. And if they are, does that mean that we're all going home and saying, great, no problem, everything's fine now? No, I'm not. That's not it. We have to, and that this crisis, really what it's asking of us is to come into a completely different relationship to nature than we're used to see nature as a being, as a sacred being, as intelligent, to be at home on this planet among our brothers and sisters, like part of the tribe of all life on earth, and asking, how can we contribute to the thriving and the well-being of all? How can we participate in this incredible living planet? That's where we want to go. And anything less than that isn't enough. And yeah, so that's what I said at Extinction Rebellion, more or less. And contrary to
I bet they loved it. They loved it, didn't they?
They loved it.
Of course
yeah,
they did.
It was a total love fest.
Of course they did.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of, there are different, I was saying to Martin, there are different pockets of the world that I mean, a part of XR, so you're going to get different flavors of it. And this is a little bit categorizing people, so it's slightly unfair, but there are those of us that have read all your books, Charles, and they're like doing ceremony, and probably lots of us are pagan, and probably talking about a lot of white people actually as I say that, but I mean, I had we were talking about grief earlier, and I've kind of done a lot of that piece around this, about what we're losing. And there's this horrendous project in the UK called HS2 that's apparently about trains, but it's an airport shuttle service anyway, it's going to plough through 108 ancient woodlands. It's the biggest deforestation of the UK since World War I. And I took a hammer to a Department of Transport, and I could get in jail by the end of the year because of it. I was outraged, and I felt to do it. It was quite like, on Twitter they were saying somebody needs to teach her how to use a hammer. It was quite but anyway, the point I'm making is that I was already really angry about this thing, and passionate about it. And then I spent quite a bit of my child. My dad was a coal miner. It's quite an ordinary, like, not in a beautiful part of the world, but there was this woodland. There is this woodland called Howell Wood. I've shagged loads of men in that wood. going back to that topic, Martin. And I went there just before my A-level results, and I used to deal with bullying by going running with chemistry notes in my ears with my dog next to me into those woods. I didn't even know what trees were there until recently. I thought, oh, what tree is it? It was my woodland. It is my woodland. You know what I mean? Like, we've all got a place like that. Those of us that, it wasn't like connecting with nature. It's just, that's what we did, right? We played outside, and I found out it's on their fucking list. It's on their list, and I was like in shock, in shock.
Yeah.
You could have said to me, they've decided they're going to kill all your cousins, and I wouldn't, no disrespect to my cousins, I'm telling you how bad I feel about the trees, not how diminished I'm about. Same feeling.
It's like they're killing your family. Yeah.
Of course, it is my family. You and I know that. It's my family. Fuck off. You're not doing that. So, yeah.
See, that's I think that's a much deeper source of resistance than
panic.
Some calculations about, the sea level rise in 50 years if we don't change, or even 12 years, because here's something that's happening to part of your soul. Like, any place where you've spent time as a child and come into relationship, that's part of your soul. And I think
and more than that, because it's also that sense when you have it, that there's something that went before you, the ancestors, and there's something that came in after you, the next 7 generations, and yours is here for a bit of time. Get over it. You're not this narcissistic blob of consumerist need. You're here to serve, and then off you go, and there's going to be something after you. What? There's not going to be much after me? Are you serious? It's like, you can cope with getting your head around your own death, and I find it quite liberating, actually. It's like the idea that you have to stay awake forever. I just want to check out at some point, and that your children are just going to be here for some time, but that life might not carry on. And I get, like, it's something will carry on, but there is a risk of a Permian mass extinction event. We are in a mass extinction event, lots going, there is a lot of loss, and in that context, it's the deepest possible wound. But as Daniel Pinchbeck said, it's also the possibility of initiation and transformation. And that's why I'm reading your thing. I think, God, you know what we're up to? The whole thing of the whole scenario of arrest, and that's not for everybody, for various reasons, but it's an initiation. It's a ceremony on the streets, and that's what's happening. It's like people go into jail and they have a dark night and they have a hero's journey, and it's kind of beautiful, and it's a consciousness shift. That's what's happening. People are grieving. That's what I see anyway. I think it's it's exciting, really, and sorry.
That the woods that you're talking about, if it gets bulldozed, that's not just, contributing to extinction because there's another carbon sink that's been destroyed. It actually is extinction.
Yeah.
That is a being that is now extinct when it gets destroyed. And one thing I said in the essay is that every time that happens, something goes extinct within ourselves as well. And that we are walking around in modern society with a poverty that we don't recognize because of the truncated connections and the destroyed beings that are supposed to be part of ourselves, And so just the other day, Carrie, I have a 7-year-old boy, he had a friend over, and so much of their lives is indoors, despite my...
I was just thinking the same thing, Charles. Yeah.
So, like, I went outside with them and stuff, and we played around outside, but there's no other kids outside in this neighborhood. There's no outdoor life. There's no community life or civic life outside. Maybe you live in a hippie eco-village or something.
I helped to get part of Woodcraft Folk off the ground in Stroud, one for the real little ones. My kids went to Steiner school for quite a long time until they were like, get us out of here, we want to play football. Sick of the minibusing and stuff. But anyway, we don't want to do Eurythmy anymore. But I've done as much as I can. Well, that's not never true, is it? But I've done a lot to try and encourage them. They're inside. And I took it to a Joanna Macy session of a process to feel the grief, and it was the rage. And kids said, they'll say, "We're bored, Mum," and I'll say, "Go," I'm just getting frustrated with them, "Go and poke a stick in a stream." Like we live in this beautiful part of the Cotswolds, and they're like, "Duh." And they're like, there aren't other children outside. And my little one's just Jacob, who's 11, he's just got into like supermarket trolleys and like riding these. I'm like, yes, because just making games up with stuff, hopefully, I mean, I don't want the supermarket trolleys in the streams, but yeah. And what they said to me is, "Mum, children aren't outside, they're inside." And it's
right. So we're swimming against the stream, and we can resist those trends for our own families and maybe create a little bit of a bubble. But even so, despite my strong values, to the contrary, my children do spend a lot more time indoors than I spent when I was a kid. And that kind of brings me to, instead of just resisting the trend, it brings me to a place of asking where this trend comes from and how we can change it on the deepest possible level rather than just resisting it, or maybe in addition to resisting it. I think it's fine to resist it. I'm happy that at least my kids got some time outdoors and were not mesmerized by screens until at least a little later age, so that their brains could develop imagination and stuff. Like, yeah, definitely we raise our families as best we can. But as public beings, as political beings, there's more to do. And my journey has been from like more superficial or politically recognizable forms of protest or resistance down to the deeper levels of narrative and being that start to look like something spiritual, which is normal. I mean, it's not like, that our civilization just made a few unfortunate mistakes that could be corrected with some technical tweak. But it's when we understand that systems and institutions and society and all the way down to the individual experience of life are all part of the same matrix, then we understand how deep this revolution has to go.
Yeah, I speak about it in 4 layers, and then when I'm thinking about this social movement, you can be comfortable in whichever layer is working for you, so it's a holistic theory of change. So there's the systemic layer, and these things have feedback loops in them, don't they? That's the point. It's not like there's this source and it makes everything do things. It's kind of like the system keeps you in the space. So the top layer is the systemic issues in the democracy and the media and the way we run our economy. The next layer is cultural. We don't have a purpose for these things. We don't have a purpose for the economy, which should clearly be maximize well-being, minimize harm, or something similar. We have a culture of consumerism, individualism, so on, narcissism, and then the layer of patriarchy. And I love how Mickey Cashtan defines it. I've read your book, The Ascent of Humanity, and I recommend it to everybody. It's a bit of a tome, but it's awesome. But it's separation and scarcity and powerlessness all together. And then the layer underneath that is that we are all one. We are all connected. I mean, I'm a bit of a psychonaut person. They've had that experience, and I think it's what feel that we're working with as XR is all of those layers in one go. And here's the interesting bit, because. So, and just to talk about how people think about activism, because I've been that activist who's like judgy and like self-righteous. I mean, I've been there. It's quite attractive, isn't it, to feel superior?
Yeah, it makes you feel pretty good for a while.
Yeah. Especially when you're generally feeling shit about yourself. It's good to have a break, isn't it? yeah, I mean, one of the things when I took ayahuasca was just, she kept showing me, you're just all this judgy, like petty, competitive, like little snippy, like, oh man, I've stopped doing it actually. It's a joy. It's a joy. Have I stopped doing it entirely? Honestly, I think I've largely stopped doing that. And what a misery in activism. A friend of mine, Simon, used to say we need the activists to get on the yoga mats and the yoga mat people to get on the streets. You know, it's often that's a little bit what's happened. But I think what's the exciting bit is Hannah Arendt said that the power lies in the collective. And whenever I've kind of read writings like your own, and those kinds of principles of connection and purpose and deeper sense, they do still sound, and you may not have this intention, but they sound quite individual. And it's almost as been, I've been like, how is this shift going to happen? Is it this idea? I mean, there's different theories of change, like one's the structuralist tradition that says the change is coming, so just be ready for it. So that may be where it's sitting, right? But I'm a bit of a nerd as well, Charles, right? So I like theories and stuff. But so is it that, like, you're over there doing your like cool therapy stuff, Polly was doing her work on the ecocide law, and then you've got, permaculture folks, and then you've got the new education, and they're all working on these seeds, but there's like still this feeling of separation. Do you see what I mean? And what's been really, really cool about Extinction Rebellion is it's like, for me, it's like these jigsaw puzzles pieces in my life. They keep coming together, and it's like this coming together of a collective. And one of the most beautiful things that happened, I was talking about this earlier, but is one of the best ways to do action. I was talking about breaking a window. It's not the best kind of action. It's breaking something, right? I mean, there was a reason I did it, but it's vision holding actions that are both disobedient but are holding the vision of the change that you want to see. And probably the most, or at least my experience of one of the most beautiful, was in April when we held the streets in community, and we fed each other, and we sang together, and we taught each other things, and we supported each other through a rest. It was just an incredible feeling of eco-community, and and people, the vision team went around washing people's feet, and atonement rituals happened, and and then the Red Rebels appeared, and the art, and it was all together. The therapy was, do you see what I mean? And it's been this thing for me. It's like, when's the coming together going to happen? Is it just because like it's all melted down? Well, maybe it's not, because it's all we have to wait for it all to melt down, because the problem with that is the massive risk, and what the part of the trajectory is fascism. It's like, it's frightening, isn't it? I'm trying to wind us all up, but there's like 14 indicators of fascism, and they're here. It's in the mix. That's our reaction to fearful times. And so the antidote is togetherness, and as I said to you, I think there's something. So for me, it's not like there's a way that XR gets described. It's very mechanical, right? We'll get this many people on the streets, this percentage of this percentage that Erica Chenoweth and Maria Stefan said you need this many people, this percentage, then government changed some policy, it's all fine. No, it's paradigm shift. It's obvious, isn't it? We're going to shift the entire paradigm. And like, if you can rebel in a way that is shifting the paradigm, because it's prefigurative. So one of the things we have to do is work out how to organise in this decentralised way, which is sort of part of teal consciousness. If you've read Frederick Laloux, so I'm getting all nerdy on you and everything, but I'm a bit excited because this is where the juice of this thing is. Like when I'm reading your essay, I'm like, oh, you know the juice of this thing. But so and it's a fucking mess half the time as well. This circle's not talking. These are in a huff. The conflict team's like so busy firefighting and set the system up properly, and how do we get result? But that's what you have to think about. That's what has to be prefigured. Do you see what I mean? Rather than I'm on my path doing my bit of change work here, and I'm doing my bit here, and that's part of it, because it's your own individual journey. But where's the collective journey? That's what I'm interested in. And how do you, like, so when I'm reading your, like, I'm just totally with you on your essay, right? And when I'm doing some BBC show, I'll sneak a bit in at this tech conference. You sneak a bit in, but you have to bridge to where, do you know what I mean? You have to meet where you think people are and speak
Yes.
I just tune in a different, but I'm not like faking anything. I just tune in a different bit of myself. I dial down the hippie for a bit, tune up the working class, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? It's just tune up the scientist.
Well, I think, so for one thing, I think that we don't really know how to organize the kind of movement that we want to see. That many of our paradigms of organization are themselves part of the problem.
Yeah, totally.
And we have to understand that the collective being that is forming is beyond any of our comprehension, and that our participation in its organization, in its emergence, might be much more a matter of listening to this coordinating intelligence than it is to impose some kind of organizational design on things. And as far as I love what you were saying about toning down the hippie if you're talking to a working class person or something like that, which is related in my mind to resisting fascism, because fascism depends on the breakdown of people's ways of narrating life and making sense of the world. When these collapse, then fascism offers a very simple, appealing identity and meaning to events. Here's what it is. And so people who are in that breakdown process are susceptible to fascism. And so if we can replace it with a different story, a different identity, a different sense-making apparatus, then we're inoculating people against fascism, because we're offering a different answer. Here's who you are. Here's why you're here. Here's the way that the world is working. That is the narrative level of the movement that's so important. And it's not only an articulated narrative. That narrative actually only works if there's a felt sense of solidarity. So what you're talking about here with meeting people where they're at is you're becoming conscious of the importance of creating solidarity, which means that, and the way to do that is anything that points to your common humanity and says we're in this together, rather than establishing an identity in contraposition to the other person's identity. I'm this, you're that. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm on the good side, you're on the bad side. I'm part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Like that. Even if it seems tactically useful to do that sometimes, you're undermining the deeper revolution by doing that. Anything that is divisive, because it's actually not the truth, So yeah, I've been asking some of the same questions that you're, how do we tap into the power of the collective in these times when there are so many ways that the collective is splintered, fragmented. Now, on one level, I mean, whatever I'm writing, where I'm speaking or something, I am aware that there is a whole bunch of individuals who are reading this, or listening to this. Like that level is true. How do you actually communicate with a collective when words are heard by human ears? Like if there's a collective being, how do you communicate with that? So one way is, of course, through the individuals, just as your ears or your neurons are part of a collective, still they exercise their function. And so there are people in the collective who have the differentiated cellular role of taking in new information, digesting it, propagating it. So there's really no rigid distinction between communicating with individuals and communicating with the collective, because we are both at the same time. Like I am an individual, and I'm also an organ of a bigger organism. I don't know. I don't want to sound pedantic here, but I'm just playing with you, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, and to me, that's speaking about morphic resonance, isn't it? And the blue tits, and you just a few of them figure out the milk bottles, and then they all know it. So, but I think it is that shift in consciousness that something. Yeah, when you were talking about listening, it feels like both, really. It feels more like being in a dance with I have a scientific background, so whenever I'm speaking from my pagan soul about prayer, like a little bit of me's like, I don't know. I mean, I pray most days. Yeah, and I take the possibility there's an inherent purpose in the universe, and then I quickly remind myself that we don't know what 70% of matter in the universe is because of dark matter, and there's also the dark energy. Dark matter's not so, anyway.
We don't even know if those
do you know
exist.
What I mean? I give myself a few. I give myself a few scientific reasons why I might be slightly credible. Neuroplasticity gets thrown in there, and you know what I mean. Just to not feel so shamed about doing something that I don't really understand. And I feel like that's, you know, there's more of a dialogue than just a listening. There's an arrogance that comes from sounding like you know how to sort things out. It's not that. It just feels like a pull in a direction, and so then that's where the service needs to be, you know, rather than a kind of, oh, that's the answer, I know how it is. And what I meant about how we organise a rebellion, you know, if it's genuinely going to grow to this global thing, we're in 75 countries now, and how we, you know, several hundred groups in the UK, it's a thing to try and organise and listen to each other. And as I know, you know, Mickey Kashtan's work, and she talks about sort of like 6 systems that hold a decentralised movement. And I think that, you know, you can see, well, I guess the picture I have is like you try stuff and it doesn't work, or, you know, even finding the energy to try it when the fact that it's not working is causing problems is something. But I got that feeling that at some moment you get it a bit right, and like a fractal, it'll, you know, something crystallizes, like a seed happens, and then that, you know, and there's a lot that people bring in where this has been thought about, you know, like how to work with conflict or something, you know, what regenerative cultures mean, how to do feedback and learning within a system, and all these kinds of things. I mean, it's practically how to do that and organise a rebellion and get the money in and be nice to everybody, and, you know, it can be a bit at times, but I think that's what I was trying to say, really. This, when I'm talking about prefiguring something that I don't know what it looks like, and but I think nature tells us a lot about it, both in terms of listening deeply in that way, and, you know, the way that there is sort of fractal, get a little bit right somewhere and it can spread.
Yeah, I wasn't saying only listen. I'm just saying maybe to begin with listening and then to continually check back, so that when you make the inevitable mistakes, you learn from the mistakes. I mean, this is, you know, very kindergarten level stuff. That, and I guess the reason I mention it is because listening presupposes that there's something to listen to, something that is larger than our machinations, you know, larger than that we're in the midst of an inconceivable process. And so for me, the question is, how do we participate in that process? So it's not saying like, I'm not advocating passivity, and I'm not advocating not to try the things that you know how to do. But it's really the recognition that what we are trying to do on a deep level has not been tried yet.
Exactly.
So maybe we need to do different things, and not hold so tightly to what has worked. And I get, like, when I was in Berlin and now talking to you and listening to what you're saying too, I had the feeling then, and I have it now, when you speak of the integration of these 4 levels, like, I was at Berlin, I was like, yeah, it's happening. That was my feeling. It's happening. Just the acceptance, the openness to it being more than just another crusade, more than just another fight. But and I felt this at Occupy Wall Street a bit too. Like, a lot of the signage there, it had this self-referential quality of consciousness, of self-examination, in many, like, of humor. Humor is I think, maybe the most powerful fundamental way to create solidarity, because it says, let's laugh together at this, or let's laugh together at ourselves. Let's, like, it brings us together. So I noticed that at Occupy, and then maybe it the movement kind of sunk under the weight of, on the one hand, 99% versus 1% rhetoric, which was taken up by the media, exaggerated into this, thing, and made the movement seem threatening, but also just, like, the weight of, like, the conflict, the habits of conflict that people brought into it, not to mention the homeless people and the mentally ill people who, there was just way more than they were equipped to handle. But I still think that the attempt to do it, like the utterly doomed attempt to do what they were doing, issued a prayer to the world that said, yeah, here's what we want, and we want it so bad that we're going to uphold this even in the face of certain failure. And that created the template on which Extinction Rebellion is now operating, and at maybe a higher level. And maybe, this, like, the movement isn't actually Extinction Rebellion. Extinction Rebellion is the latest iteration or name for a movement that is perennial and actually goes back thousands of years.
Yeah.
But now it's, like, blooming.
That's how I feel it. That's how I feel it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
It's how you like learning, and you kind of think that don't get attached. I was talking to Micah White, who was one of the creators of the Occupy movement. I was like, what was it like when it was done with? And it was like a surrender. So I keep thinking, I feel a little bit like you're kind of going down this thing, and it's blocked, so you go down that way, and then and maybe at some point it's finished, that iteration's finished, and something's learned, something else is in the field from it, and but it's fun while it's happening. Something, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, so it's just alive, and it's kind of doing its thing for a bit. I think it's so important to name how we're stood on the shoulders of other things that have gone before. It's not like, did you also go on, Martin?
I'm just not sure at the moment, because for me it's so beautiful to listen to you, but I came with questions also. So, but maybe one aspect of your essay, Charles, is when you were talking about demands, which I think is so interesting, because it's also part of the Fridays for Future movement and part of the political and activist culture. For me, is a very interesting perspective, and I would like to ask you to share it, and then maybe you, Gail, have a reflection on that also.
Yeah. This was actually drawing on an essay I wrote back during the Occupy time, which was called "No Demand is Big Enough." And I recognized at the time that the political authorities were incapable of granting what we really wanted. Like what we really want is beyond the capacity of the authorities to give us, because they're totally locked into the system that has created their roles to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves us a dilemma, because either we make these impossible demands, which really comes down to change everything. Like you can't demand change everything. They don't know how. Or we reduce our true aim to something so small that authority could grant it, but then like that's not really what we want. And are we going to go home satisfied with this little shift when that's not even why we were mobilizing to begin with? So there's a dilemma there, and the resolution maybe is to understand that whatever we're demanding is part of a larger conception that isn't really about that demand. But
I was just going to give you the jazz hands there.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what's going off. You know, you can go back to the Rising Up materials, and which this is founded on. We talk about. Well, I dug them out when you were speaking earlier because you know, just partly because it speaks to some of those points. You know, it says, for example, few of us feel truly good and well in this system. Most of us collude in some ways to protect our immediate interests, often out of either fear or greed. We forget our interdependence as people and our utter reliance on nature for our lives. On a deep level, no one is really to blame. You know, it's that kind of thinking there. But so, you know, democracy is an issue. In my opinion, we don't have a real democracy. And how do you create a democracy from not a democracy? You can't do it democratically, can you? Uh-huh. Gives the left some real sticks to beat you with, by the way. But the Citizens' Assembly is the bit, the seed here. So in the whole demands thing, I don't like that word. You know, demand. It just speaks of something, doesn't it? But it's people get it, so it has its uses in some ways. What are they asking for? What are they longing for? You have this, like, you know, this difference between structural and prophetic demands. So the structural is, you know, like Martin Luther King would go to a town and try and make a relatively minor change to some aspect of it, and the prophetic demand is black people to be treated full human beings that they are, you know, and that's still not being met, right? And of course you have to hold that and hold the structural, and what you're doing is trying to evolve in that direction. You know, that's so how do the structural demands support the evolutionary prophetic process that you're really in? And actually, to focus on democracy, you have to kind of, well, I don't know if you have to, but this is what we're doing. What we're trying is, you want a citizens' assembly, and it's really hard to argue against. It's not a load of, we're not telling people what to do. And that really throws this kind of narrative that wants to squash us, because we're not saying, right, we want nuclear power, we don't want nuclear power, we want veganism, we don't want vegan, we want regenerative agriculture, we don't have any policies. We just say that there's loads of good stuff you could try, you know, and then we say we want a citizens' assembly, and it's chosen, I guess you know about it, chosen by a sortition, and it's demographically representative. And the UK has one, and France has actually made its own legally binding. So it's a real opening in the, you know, it's a crack in the something. So it's evolutionary. It feels really important, that bit. I don't think people realise how radical it is. And by the way, it's for climate and ecological justice. That's what it says. You know, ecological justice. So you can't go off and say, okay, we're gonna, you know, create this, like, everybody's going to have 1 million solar panels on their roofs, and by the way, there's no, you know, we destroy the planet, death by 1,000 cuts, to quote you. You know, it has to be ecological. You can't take loads of money off people who haven't got it anyway, because we've said it has to be just. So but it sounds, and it's reasonable, because it is reasonable. And so that's
I would be curious to hear what's beyond demands, in Charles' perspective.
Can I just add one more thing about demands?
Go on then. Yeah.
I mean, my dilemma is like there's so much that you're saying that I could respond to, but I did want to put one more thing in, which is like I'm not the word police here and say don't use the word demands, like
good.
But I do think that it's more than just a word. The whole mentality of a demand is do it or else. And that makes sense if I have power over you, or if I'm leveraging some kind of threat that gives me at least some power over you. But imagine if Carrie comes and says, I demand that you let me go to bed at midnight tonight, or something like that. I'm like, who are you to make demands? Like you have no power to make that happen. A demand has an implicit threat. And I think that the energy that carries is contrary to the solidarity and to that we want, and to the understanding that in a way we're all in this together, that we're all stuck in a system that isn't working for anybody, that even to have this conversation right now, we are consuming fossil fuels and using technology that destroys the Congo. I just find that demand, the mentality of demanding induces the wrong dynamic. And I would love to, and I'm not saying never make demands. There are situations where maybe there's something precious at stake and you can force somebody to change. And there's a place for legal battles, and for fighting. But on the grand scale, this is not a battle we're going to win by fighting. So I'd like to see an exploration of not just other language, but another approach to movement building and another conception of change that's not about demanding. Like the whole, I'm being demanding, like that whole thing, it sets people up defensively. It makes people defensive, because, oh yeah, like you're demanding that? Well, like the initial response, and people can get over that, but I would just like to have that on the conversation table.
Yeah, no, I think it's it wouldn't be my choice of words actually, so I don't mind you being the word police, even though you weren't going to be. I think there's something about understanding that people do have power, that the power, as I said before, lies in the collective, and if enough people come together, there are different forms of power. The way Tim G talks about it is idea power, when you shift ideas massively, and been a phenomena in that in our lifetime, Charles. It's incredible. There's physical power, somebody's going to cut down them trees and I'm going to put my body in the way, so that and I'm demanding they don't chop down that tree, and I'm in my power.
But even that,
I know. I didn't. I just was. I think I'm trying to say, when do you find your no as a collective as well as you're finding your yes? But the other power is economic power, and it's something that's been so smashed out of us. That we don't have power. That and if you come together, that in sufficient numbers, it is really hard for this. You do have the right to ask. I mean, the reason why we use the word rebellion is that we say that the social contract's broken. There's a contract with the state where you say you'll submit to democracy in its current form because you believe it's the best, blah blah blah. We say it's broken because you're not protecting us, and it's of a certain dimension within this thing, Charles. It's obvious. I think I get that. I think I get it. But I think it may have a leverage value into something else, which is about feeling our togetherness. It's like I was having a conversation with Christiana Figueres, and they started off saying about anger and getting you on the streets. And I thought it might get you on the streets, but it's love that holds you there. So it's sort of love and justice. I'm not really answering your point very well, because because I don't have an answer, but I know that you're saying something that is meaningful and important, and I don't know quite yet how to not do it the way we've done it. But I did want to speak about the Global Citizens Assembly slightly as well, but I'll maybe park that to see if there's more. Something
I would like to talk about the Citizens Assembly. I think that that's probably the most useful demand, because even if such a thing has no like legal power, it still has the power to change normal in people's minds and to create a different climate of possibility. So it's a once you have a legitimized body to express public will, it's hard to just ignore it. It's inconvenient for the powers that be to ignore it once it's there. The danger, of course, is that it gets staged in such a way that the polarizing divisions in the populace just get replicated there, and it devolves into a microcosm of the general political culture. Like I could see that happening here. You bring people together, and it's going to be divided on guns or abortion or
well, that's where you need to use convergent facilitation.
Like
it's the way in which this is facilitated. I did one of those shows where they're pitching the audience, bits of the audience against each other, and I was saying to them afterwards, why don't you film convergent facilitation? Wouldn't that be amazing? Again, Mickey's work, when 80% of the town come into agreement or more, ideally. The other piece, the kind of prayer that I'm really sitting with this year is that we move beyond democracy to talking and thinking about the economy, and that the real collective power we have there is to not participate in it in some ways, to refuse to pay debts or to take on debts and to not pay them. And that's when people actually can smell they have that possibility. So that's what we're talking about. You do some physical actions at some of the actors that are keeping the system, some accountancy firms or whatever that are running the tax havens. And again, it's not blaming and shaming, but those institutions are a problem, what they're doing. But the kind of the idea is that we really think this is possible. We're talking to somebody who could fund it, because it's a big, and it wouldn't be XR running it, a global citizens assembly, with also a multi-stakeholder panel. It would be necessary. It's a technical thing, but and there is no global democracy, right? So like this thing, we could vote for its legitimacy. We could have like 1 billion people. The technology exists to make that possible, that we say, and that it would look to rewire humanity. And so you have both the prophetic baked into a structural possibility. Do you see what I mean? And
oh yeah.
Yeah, and it would be like largely brown faces, right? It would be looking at what's the question that I long for it to ask, and so the multi-stakeholder panel would have the expertise of, would have the chairman of BP in there, like how are we going to sort this out, right? It's a collective issue. I loved your interview with Daniel, I can't get his name right, Schmattenberger, is it?
Daniel Schmattenberger, yeah.
Yeah, out of control paperclip machine. We've got this out of control paperclip machine, folks. What do we want to do about it? What does it look like to, get economists in a room and people of the world and go, we've got to fucking sort this out, haven't we? And I know that it comes from the patriarchal wound that we're all trying to heal, but there is systems that are in place that are helping it to run and keeping the wound in place and making it work, right? So we've got to look at the systemic level. So that's what I'm excited about. I think, wow, that's like, and it's not a demand, because it's not even a demand. You're not even demanding it of anybody. You're like asking, we're saying to elites and people with positions, like, come on, tell the truth. The reason we're in a crisis is not because we forgot to get a few solar panels together. It's because we're like running the wrong operating system. How are we going to rewire ourselves?
As you know, I've thought a lot about the economic level too, and it's like this big knot where you could pull on any thread and unravel the knot. like, it's hard to say. I mean, you could definitely make a case that, and I have made this case, that if our economic system doesn't change, and specifically our money system doesn't change, then nothing else we do is going to work either. But we'll be swimming against the current. The current being the conversion of nature into product and community and relationships into services. Resisting it here, resisting it there. Maybe there's a little countercurrent in one place and we declare victory, but the overall sweep of history is towards that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to change that. So that's fundamental. But is it really fundamental? Because the economic system that we know is totally at home in a worldview of objectification, patriarchy, separation. So maybe that's what we have to change. And complicating the matter is that it's not that the story is primary and it creates the systems. It's also that the systems create the story.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're immersed in the current economic system, the world does look like a war of each against all. So that said, you mentioned a debt strike or debt refusal. Sometimes I think that is almost the only kind of action left to us that could really bring down the system. Because for one thing, it's a digital action. Unlike, and most digital action, maybe I'm a little cynical, but I don't think signing online petitions and stuff really accomplishes very much, or sending emails to legislators or something. But the system right now is so tightly leveraged that if even a small percentage of people stopped making payments on their credit cards and other debt, then, I mean, all of a sudden the assets in the financial industry that are essentially collections of credit card obligations, those become problematic. And then the derivatives based on those become, and the whole thing disintegrates, and the system is brought to its knees. So I've thought about, and then the authorities will respond with forceful debt collection, garnishing wages and things like that. But I think that by the time they got their act together, it would be too late. The thing is, if we realize we have the power to bring the system to its knees, the question is, do we want to do that when we don't yet have a coherent alternative? I think that I was just in Egypt, actually, maybe, how many years is this after the Tahrir Square uprising, when the people actually won. Like they actually, the police joined them, the army stepped down, they refused to shoot, the government disintegrated, and the people were in charge, basically. They had this golden moment where all bets were off. What did they do? They didn't know what to do. All they could do is invite new occupants into the old power structure. And because the way things work depends not so much on the occupants, but on the structure, nothing really changed. And in fact, maybe things got worse. It's just today an incredibly militarized country with beautiful people doing their best, including it really brought home to me the error of blaming the people in power for the way things are.
Yeah.
So, as far as a debt strike goes, I want to make sure that we know what to do with our power once we recognize that we have it.
What's interesting about that is that you can sort of say, I'm not paying my mortgage, and then like, I've changed my mind, I'll pay you. You can play. We can play, because I've been a little bit talking with bankers, and they're shitting themselves as well, some of them who get it, and they've got kids, and their kids are giving them a load of grief around the kitchen table And then they've got loads of skin in the game. And I think, you know, the Deutsche Bank economists in the McKinsey report that came out were recently saying, on the one hand, the civilization's finished, or on the other hand, the civilization's finished. Either we carry on with economic growth or we get rid of it. You know, the message is kind of getting through, and it's sort of like, it's, you know, that whole the emperor's got no clothes on thing. I wouldn't talk about bringing the system down. I think it just makes me like a mad anarchist, and everybody's just going to just go, ugh, and it's not the language to bring something down. We've got to upcycle it. It would be more my language, you know, and the things that we can prefigure. I mean, obviously lots of people have worked on things like alternative currencies. There's the electronic currencies, and I know there's problems in that. And, but this is what I meant about prefiguring, and the big prefiguring is all the people's assemblies that happen, that built on the back of Occupy movement. It's the citizens' assembly can be part of the future. So, but the whole point would be saying, look, you know, this system, the governor of the Bank of England, Mervyn King, the previous one, the current one, they're both talking about it collapsing again. You know, it's finished, isn't it? Like 1 degree of warming, 1% drop in GDP, apparently. I mean, you know, it's finished anyway.
I don't agree.
I mean,
I don't
whatever.
think it's finished.
Well, and it could. I mean, I'm like, you know, your kind of concrete world possibility.
Well, what do you think?
But
Go ahead, Gail. Finish your thought.
Well, I'm trying to say that I think there's enough people waking up to the mess that we're in and how it's going to get messier, and using definitive statements like it's finished or whatever. I mean, it can carry on milking this. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I think that if we push forwards in the right way with the right heart and the right spirit, it's possible that we will do a shift rather than a collapse and trying to. I mean, in the movement that Gene Sharp talks about, that you have to consolidate, you have to know what you want to put in place afterwards. It's important.
Yeah, my views have changed in the last 10 years about this. I used to think, in fact, I put this in Sacred Economics, you know, which I'm revising now. I might leave that in there just because it was accurate to where I was at the time. But I used to kind of think that the crisis was going to come and save us. That the changes that I've always wanted to make and the society that I've always wanted to live in was going to be inevitable because of some version of collapse or some threat of collapse, that we're all of a sudden going to realize, okay, we can't go on, it's doomed, we have to change now. But this replacement of we choose to change with we have to change, I've become skeptical of. I've become skeptical that climate change is going to save us from ourselves, or that Y2K is going to save us from ourselves, that we're going to become literally unable to persist in our ways. I'm not sure about that. Maybe we will be rescued by collapse, but maybe there's another way where we choose the world that we want to live in, and we even begin to orient around the paradigm of choice rather than being forced to do something. And that opens up new questions, which for me primarily are, what are the conditions of our choice right now? If we do have a choice, why are we choosing extinction? Why are we choosing one childhood forest after another, one species after another, one ecosystem after another, one culture after another, one language after another going extinct? Why are we choosing this? And what would it take to choose differently? And I don't have like a reduced formula to answer that question. I have a lot of thoughts on it. All I know is, and probably a lot of my answers are the wrong answers, but what I'm sure about is that it's the right question. What are the conditions of a different choice? That question will give birth to so much creativity.
I'm really actually relieved to hear you say what you just said around, you know, this idea that change was inevitable because there's going to be this transition. I felt that some people read your work and kind of went, oh, it's all going to be all right, and it kind of kept them in some place that wasn't necessarily that transformative and helpful, and I didn't think that was your intention. So I'm relieved to hear that. And I think when people say, when you say that kind of thing, like, why are we choosing this or not choosing that? It's like when people go, well, why aren't people on the streets in anger? And it's like, because you don't all spontaneously go on the streets, do you? Generally, I mean, somebody organizes it. So to me,
not always. That's not. Yeah.
Well,
Gezi Park in Turkey, 3 days, millions of people. It was not organized. But yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose it depends on how we define organising as well, don't we? There's some organising principle at work anyway, but it's not so. Yeah, okay. I think that the change is a bit like the individual changes that we have in our lives when we hit crisis, you know. And I heard that you'd said recently, before every moment of great transformation there's a moment of despair, and I think we are being asked especially by the children, to look at what we're doing and to open our eyes to it. And the culture doesn't want this, because no, just keep by it, you know, keep this, that and the other. And more people are looking and feeling it, and I think that's where the change is coming from. I don't know, you know, we could have I spoke to this man, Orland Bishop, who I've recorded a bunch of conversations with him. Very profound, wise person. And he is a bit, he does a lot of very hands-on work in Los Angeles, and he's done gang peacemaking and things like that, but also has a deep metaphysical perspective. And he said that new earth energies and cosmic energies are coming online that are changing humanity. And I was like, so you mean it's just going to happen to us and we just wait around for it? You know, he's like, no, it's not about waiting, it's about preparing. So to translate that into that little, you know, comment I just made about, well, Gezi Park, it just happened, you know, there wasn't really organization. Maybe the organization or the work that we do, so it's not like, well, let's wait around for the equivalent of a Gezi Park to happen globally. It's about, how do we prepare for that moment? How do we, maybe the organization isn't to make that happen. The organization isn't to bring people to the streets. It's to be able to handle, like, what, when the people do take over, when that moment of dissolution comes, how do we make sure that we don't just put it back together again? Like, how do we prepare ourselves for that? Because it could happen. It could happen fast. You know. Yeah. Are we ready? That's what I mean about prefiguring. That's what I mean about how we're organizing at the minute. It's a thing, you know, trying to work this out. Martin, you had some questions on them. You just keep chatting.
For me, actually, it's very beautiful to listen to you, and you were talking about most of the things I wanted to ask anyway. So
I think this prefiguring, you know, that you're talking about, Gail, is maybe even more important than any outward accomplishments. Like that feeling you were speaking of, like the people washing each other's feet, you know, and just doing things in this reverential way, and having that experience of union and solidarity. And I'm not saying that the outward accomplishments or goals are not important or can be dispensed with. Maybe they're necessary even to, like, you have to have something to be in solidarity around. But in the end, it might be that which prefigures the kind of world that we want to create. And it might be a more important contributor to the readiness for that than any of the goals that you can articulate.
That's basically how I see it.
Beautiful. Maybe just one last question for you both, which Nico gave me to ask you. She had the impulse to bring you two together, and she actually wanted to know who is inspiring you. Yeah, maybe it's an individual question for you both to name maybe one person or one, I don't know, one initiative or something which is inspiring which we want to sort of magnify now with spelling it out.
I can answer that, I guess. Who really inspires me are the humble people who are doing things without any idea that they're saving the world. Their service is pure. And that inspires me to purify my service and to distinguish what is actually serving the healing of the world and what is serving my self-importance or my image or my something like that, my identity. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a gas station with my son, filling up the car with gas. And usually it's self-serve, you get out and you pump the gas. But this one was full serve, but I didn't realize it. So I was pumping the gas, and there was a gas attendant who was doing the other cars, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" And he's like, "Need any help with that?" And I'm like, "No, it's fine. I got it." Like, well, that was weird. Then only when I got back in the car to drive away did I realize that I was kind of encroaching on his job. So I rolled down the window. I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was full serve." And he was so friendly. He was like, "No problem, just less for me," and he was just like said such from the heart, such a beautiful smile. And then he even patted the car. Like, it's okay. He patted the car to send us on our way. And I was so touched by this little vessel of goodness. I mean, this is not one of the society's elites. He works in a petrol station making minimum wage. He has no reason to be grateful and loving and happy compared to the more privileged people that I know. And if he can be in that expression of goodwill and generosity, then so much is possible for this world. So nobody's going to say, or it's very few people recognize that people like him are changing the world. But if it weren't for people like him, I would not be able to do what I do. I would have long ago faltered into despair. But these people are holding an energy. They're holding a morphic field that enables me to act from it. They're holding me in that with a strength that is beyond me. So I'll name those people as my biggest influence.
That's beautiful.
Thank you very much, Charles.
Thank you. I really resonate with that. I think the most meaningful or beautiful thing I love in the world is kindness. And I don't even. I think the word compassion sounds a little high and mighty or something. It's just general kindness. I feel inspired every time in the work that I'm doing. We go through a hard time and people brush themselves down and decide to carry on. I'm inspired by humanity's resilience and determination. some of it's fueled by all sorts of different bits of our shadow, isn't it? But let's not give ourselves a hard time about that. At least it's got us through. Whatever gets you through the night, I think John Lennon said, you know. And I say again what I said last time, Martin, that actually the ceremony I sat with in the solstice, the message very strongly was joy and celebration of life, enough misery. Yeah, like we don't, you know, when you talked about fascism earlier, I was thinking, you know, talking about the story and so on, and I think also let's be the fun people. I mean, not, you know, authentically so, but yeah, let's celebrate life. Whatever's going off, let's celebrate it. It's gorgeous, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gail. Is there anything else one of you both still wants to say for closing?
Well, you guys are fun people, and Gail, I'm really happy that we had this little interchange. There's tons more we could talk about, and yeah, I just really appreciate your spirit and your humor and your playfulness and your originality and courage. So I'm really happy that we all got together to talk.
Thank you. And likewise, it's a real honour. I know you get called this anyway, but I do think of you as one of the great thinkers of our time, and I hope that doesn't weigh heavily on you. It's an interesting journey to keep thinking and figuring stuff out, and appreciate your books. What are you working on at the moment? You got another book up your sleeve?
I'm putting together a book of political essays, actually, of which the 10,000 word monstrosity is one. You know, some of them I've published already, and there's a couple new ones, and I'm revising them. But much of this on the theme of peace and abandoning the habits that appear to be part of the solution, but that are actually part of the problem. So, yeah.
Great.
Beautiful.
Also, I might write a screenplay, but that's a different thing.
Cool.
Beautiful. Just to mention that your essay, when this will be aired, it will be published in German also, under the title of Wut, Mut, Liebe. So I thank you very much for your precious time, and yeah, good luck and blessings on your journeys and your ways.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you for getting us together.
Hope to see you not too far in the future.
No, not so long.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, loves. Bye.